And I get to say greetings, everyone. Welcome to the virtual Dalcroze meetup. My name is Stephen Neely, and I'm your host for this evening. I think this is meetup 93, which is crazy that 100 of these meetups are within sight. We've been meeting pretty regularly for the last 5 years and have welcomed friends new and old from all over the globe to come and talk about their practice and the intersection of their practice with Dalcroze teaching, Dalcroze studies, Dalcroze pedagogies. And it's a joy to have everybody here. The agenda, I'm just going to um, put in the chat. And let's see. So our tradition from pretty much the beginning has been to try to introduce ourselves to each other. So I'm going to put you into two little breakout rooms here, um, so that everyone can have a chance to introduce yourself at least to a couple people. It's never enough time to really get a lot done. It's not, but it's just enough to be like, these are interesting people. Maybe I can find my way back. Um, we've got, oh, good, Patrick made it. Good job, Patrick. We were hoping you'd make it in. So I'm gonna put you into a breakout room. Normally in the breakout room, we try to introduce ourselves. We say where we are located and who do we teach. And if you don't teach, you can say anything that you like. But roughly, where your name, where you located, who do you teach? I'm going to call you all back in 2 minutes. It goes by very fast. So get ready, set, and go. Then Patrick, I'm going to put you in a room. Very good. Looks like we got everybody back. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a chance to just meet a couple people, maybe somebody new. And we're just so happy to have you. Well, before we get into our agenda for tonight, we always have a couple little announcements. So we want to remind everybody that all upcoming VDM Virtual Dalcroze Meetup events are recorded in our calendar. So we have a little website at virtualdalcroze.org, and one of the main tabs there is the calendar. And if you subscribe to the calendar, so you can just go to the calendar and just see, but if you subscribe to the calendar, it will populate your own digital calendar with all of our events in your time zone, which is really helpful being an international community. And so you don't have to worry about daylight savings time or converting for this or that. It'll always just display for you in your time zone. So we encourage everybody to subscribe to our Google Calendar for our master classes and short courses and meetups. The next thing coming up, you'll see on the calendar is masterclass number 47, which is with Michael Schnack, who's an American. I mean, he grew up here in the States, but he's been living in Vienna, in Austria for the last many years. And so Michael's very international just in his own resume. He comes from a kind of a choral background, a theater background, a lot of musical theater things in his life, and he's giving us a class on syncopations. So we encourage everybody to sign up for Michael's class. He's a lovely man, and I know you'll, no matter who you work with, you would get something out of the time with him. And then right after that, that's March 8th here in the States, and maybe depending on where you are in the world, it might be March 9th for you. And then starting on March 17th, our good friend Fabian Bouts in Switzerland is going to do a 3-session short course on elementary Eurhythmics in the primary school. And so Fabian has a whole career of working with the youngins, with the littles, and he is the sweetest man. And so we're really looking forward to giving Fabian 3 good 80-minute classes to really get a little bit deep into his work and be able to share some of his successes and things he's learned over the many years. And so both of those are not to be missed. So maybe pencil them in your calendar. And with that, we have two great presenters tonight. Patrick Cerria and Debashree are with us. Thank you both for being here. The way we'll do it is we're just going to give you each 5 to 7 minutes It's okay if you run a little bit over or end a little bit early, but without any big discussion in between. Patrick, we'll invite you to share with us first. Patrick is talking about Eurhythmics interventions used in speech therapies for autistic children, an overview of a study that he's collaborating on. And then Debashree is with us from India and is presenting movement and inclusion in music learning, a Hindustani classical music approach, which also sounds just awesome. So I'm so excited to hear both of you. Once you both have had a chance to present for 5, 7 minutes, then we'll say thank you, and then we try to have a nice little conversation for about 25, 30 minutes, where we'll bounce back and forth with anybody in the room and the things that you've shared. So, Patrick, the floor is yours, and if you look like you're running too far over, I might give you a little swing. So, Patrick, it's all you.
Yeah, Debashree and I actually met in Luxembourg, and we have been in contact since. And
Oh, good.
I think we have aspirations to also do some work together. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, so if you don't know, I actually I earned my elementary Dalcroze certificate in 2007. And at the time I was doing my um, work towards my certificate, I had a very strange thing happen where I began working with a group of occupational, physical, and speech therapists. So I worked with that. It was an organization in here in New Jersey called Intensive Therapeutics, and we were doing work with children with sensory-based delays like autism spectrum disorders and things like that. And then we were also working with children who have cerebral palsy. And my background was not with special education or anything like that, but I began to notice that a lot of the language that I was picking up in my rhythmic studies shared a very similar languages and thoughts with occupational and speech therapists. And so it was a very cool time for me in that those 3 years where I was working towards my Dalcroze certificate, I was doing this work. And I've always thought of it as kind of a weird hybrid master's program in Eurhythmics and special education. And it was a very informative time for me. And I took a lot of that experience once I completed my certificate and I began teaching. And by virtue of that experience, I was asked to go teach at a school for children, self-contained school for children on the autism spectrum. And I began working there. And they are part of a school district here in New Jersey, a county school district where they provide special and alternative education services. So for other public school districts in the county. And I teach in 3 other schools now. One is a self-contained school for autistic children. The other one is a school for developmentally disabled children. And then a high school for at-risk inner city students with behavioral and emotional classifications. And in my school for autistic children, I began to notice a lot of, if you don't know, excuse me, I'm just going to say, a lot of children with an autism diagnosis also have corresponding speech and language impairments. So in my school, we have a number of kids who, in addition to being autistic, are either speech delayed or completely nonverbal. And I began having moments in my classes where kids with limited speech or no speech would suddenly make sounds and or form vowel sounds or actually say a word, things that they weren't doing in their school supplied speech therapies, which they receive in school as part of their education. And what happened was the speech therapists began doing a practice what they call pushing in. So instead of removing a student during music class for speech therapy, they would remain in class with the student, and they began to observe things that then inspired them because they were unaware that the student or the child could make a sound or do things because they hadn't done it in speech therapy. So I began to have a lot of success, and I began to notice that Eurhythmics specifically worked hand in hand with a lot of the interventions that these children responded really well to, the speech therapies as well as occupational therapies. And I did a very small, tiny little pilot study back in 2023, which I presented at the International Conference of Dalcroze Studies at Carnegie Mellon. And one of the keynote speakers was Dr. Beatrice Solari, who is at University of Southern California. And she came to my presentation, and at the end, she approached me, and we decided to create a larger study. My study was only with 2 students. We have now expanded it to 14 students. And what we're doing is we've created 2 specific groups of kids in the school, and we're working hand in hand with the school speech therapists. Now, the school, generally, every class in the school receives music with me once a week, and we've created these 2 groups of students. One group is 7 students who have what we call a limited sound vocabulary or no sound vocabulary, where they can't form vowel or consonant sounds. And then the second group is a group that has sounds and some words, but they can't complete or finish coherent sentences. And what we're working on with them is what we call improving their range of speech utterance. And those 2 groups will be getting 1 extra Eurhythmics/speech session a week in addition to their regular music class with me. And then we have a third group, which is a control group, which they're not receiving any of the extra. They're just receiving the 1 music class. And we're going to do a comparative with the 2 groups against them. We did a baseline, got baseline data using the school speech therapy assessments. And it took a long time, but we finally got IRB approval through USC, and we are finally off and running. The other hurdle we hit is the school. My school has a very large Hispanic population, and just because of what's been going on lately, a lot of the parents were very apprehensive to sign things and put their names on things. And luckily, we have a couple of office administrators at the school who are fluent in Spanish, and let them know that it's just an academic study. Their information is not going to be shared with anybody outside of the study. And so once we were able to get through to them on their own language and their own terms, the permission slips flooded in, and we were able to get 14 students, which is what we wanted. So we're really excited about it. And so far, it's been amazing in that the speech therapists are so excited, and there's 4 speech therapists in the school who up until this point had never heard of Eurhythmics, and they are all gung-ho on it all of a sudden. They appreciate what it is. They can see what I've always seen, which is a very strong correlation between what speech therapy is and what I think Eurhythmics is. And we're working really well together, and so far so good. And the study we're hoping will be done by the end of the school year in June, and then we're going to begin compiling the data and hopefully get a paper done and published by the late fall, early winter of next year. So that's our goal. And my overall goal, which has always been a driver for me, is my dream is to have any school that has a music program in it of any way. If you don't know this, there's over 7 million kids who go to school every day who require special education services, 7.5 million kids here in America. Within that population, 1.4 million require specific speech and language interventions. So I believe that music educators, specifically a Eurhythmics educator in every school, would be just an added asset. It would bring so much more, not only to the music program, but to the school and the students themselves. I think a Eurhythmics teacher would not only be a asset to the music curriculum and the music program, but also an asset to provide more support to the entire school, meaning enhanced therapies, assist teachers who may be struggling with classroom management, assist occupational therapists with self-regulation specific to students who may have a behavioral classification. That's another very high population of students, is students with behavioral classifications. So my sort of big long-term goal is to let schools realize that Eurhythmics teachers can and should be an added asset to every school that has a music program, albeit public, private, or charter. So that's what I'm working on. I'm very excited. And I got to thank Stephen, because presenting my little pilot study at Carnegie Mellon is at the ICDS is what got this whole thing going. So it's been really great. And
We are,
the Dalcroze community it's my favorite people on the planet. It's just a great
well,
open community. So I'm very happy to be affiliated with you guys. And if I look forward to telling you all more about it. And I'm very
yeah.
excited.
Well, Patrick, we are so thrilled to both feature you here, but also just to see all the work that you're doing. It's outstanding. And I know there'll be lots of things to talk about here in a couple minutes. I'm going to shift over to Debashree. And Debashree, I'm sorry, I think I said your name wrong when I introduced you the first time. So
It's
am I
it's
close?
yes, you are very, very much close.
Okay.
Very much.
Well, welcome. It's so nice to meet you, or meet you again. We met also. So the ICDS is the International Conference of Dalcroze Studies, which this last summer was in Luxembourg, and a number of us were there. And we're already planning for the next one, which will be not this summer, but summer of 2027, will be in Bangkok, Thailand. So everybody should pencil in June. I think it's the second week of June. It's time for all of us who have not been there before to go visit Thailand. But Debashree, it's so nice to meet you again, and to ask you to tell us a bit about the work that you're doing. You've got a good 7 minutes or whatever you like.
Sure. Thank you so much, Stephen. And I'm so happy to meet you all. And honestly, I came across Dalcroze very cosmically because I'm not formally trained in Dalcroze. I would just like to share a picture which will help, I think, all of us to understand a little more. Yeah. So you all can see. Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, I would like to just tell how did I come across the idea of movement music and inclusion. So I work with a group of kids who are between the age range of 5 to 8, and with or without disabilities, the group comprises of diverse kids. I was teaching them some concepts in Hindustani classical music, and I saw that some of them were able to focus and some of them were not. So I thought what to do. We had big mirrors in the room, and I asked them all to stand up and face the mirror. And we were doing some notes. So suppose it's like da 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 sa sa da pa. So we were moving our hands and body sa sa da pa ga re sa re, and they found it like a dance. And instantly I saw that all of them were focusing, all of them. And it was so interesting to me because I feel the more we engage our body and movement, it improves our sensory reception. So this is how I started focusing more and started thinking more. How can I include more techniques and translate the concepts into movement as well? And by then, I was not exposed to Dalcroze that something of this sort exists. Uh, so this was the story, and there are multiple elements of Hindustani classical music. The major one is the microtones. So when we go from sa to ga, the first note to the third note, so we might go sa ga sa re re ga sa. So it's usually not sa re ga sa. They are all woven like in a thread. So when we move our hands and see, envision it, imagine it, we are able to project it better. And at the same time, there are different rhythm cycles, and I tried including them in hand claps or even clapping with your fellow learners. And it gave me tremendous results. In the picture C, you can see that there's a hill. So we use this going upwards the hill. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. So they move, they go up. Suppose they are sitting, they will move up and they'll again come back. And you can see that there's a picture of he's a maestro, he was a maestro, late Ustad Rashid Khan Sahab. We are not usually encouraged to move too much, and we are not trained to move in Hindustani classical music, but we intuitively end up moving our hands. Uh, I don't think that we have observed it much so far in our pedagogy. Um, and while I conduct our sessions, I have started combining movement with storytelling as well as games. So, storytelling, for example, there are parent scales, multiple parent scales, which include flatter or sharper notes. So, suppose I would say that there's a family of 10 kids from the same parents, and they are moving, they are walking, but all of them are walking in a different way. So, can you identify which note we are walking in a different way? So when they are seeing me moving, sa re ga ma, and can you imagine sa re ga ma? Oh, they're different. So they will instantly identify that, oh, the fourth note was different. And this was very, very helpful for me as well as the kids. We include some games with movement as well. Uh, Now the question is, my thought was how and where is the origin? I think that the better our imagination is, the better we are able to move as well as translate our imagination in our voice. So I had given them a task. Suppose I am singing this tune. Where do you imagine? Imagine yourself as walking in this particular note. Which direction do you walk in? So most of them said, suppose, da ra ra ra, in comparison to da ra ra ra. The second one was more straight, and the first one, da ra ra ra. Most of them said that it's more diagonal. I'm moving suddenly in a diagonal direction. Very interesting to me. And I think movement includes uh, more perception, more thoughts, without letting the group know that uh, someone has disability or someone doesn't have. They are at a parity state. Um, it minimizes the feeling of, oh, I'm not able to focus. Um, and it's not very common in India, and in my practice, I have not seen much in music education here. Especially in Hindustani classical music, we are told to sit in a very strict posture and practice. Movement is not very encouraged, but I think with changing time, attention span, diverse population, if we can teach in a way that kids can understand, why not? So my goal in the future, as I work in music therapy, music healing, as well as social development, how can we include more of movement, and how can I learn more about Dalcroze so that I can practically implement it in my work, as well as I would love to do research, collaborative research for better impact. Yes. So this is it from my side right now.
Very good. Thank you so much. We're so happy to meet you, and this is all so wonderful. The just the I want to so we'll now open up the floor and ask everybody to ask their questions or make their comments. I just want to point out though what to me feels like a really big difference from now, from 20 years ago and more, which is that we have two practitioners here between Patrick and Debashree, who are presenting their work not only as my teaching, but really as their inquiry, their research. And that framing, at least in my world, is excitedly new. It feels like something that's happening now in the 2020s that I really don't remember so many music teachers knowing even how to frame the work that we do as exploratory and learning for ourselves or contributing to the general knowledge, as opposed to, I don't know, I found an interesting thing I like to do. And so I want to just compliment both of you and point out to everybody who would get a chance to watch this after the fact that even if you don't have a PhD or you aren't all up to speed on your IRB permissions and your different ways of forming formal academic study, there's no reason though that we shouldn't all be framing our work as contribution to knowledge and looking for ways to feature it as such. And many ways is to do that with collaborating with each other. But it starts with just recognizing that your everyday work with your everyday students, I'm sure, is pushing the boundaries, and you are learning as often as much as they are. So congrats to both of you for that. So we've got 25 minutes or so. So any thoughts or any questions for either Patrick or Debashree? I have some ideas, but I would love it if someone other than me talked for a little bit. Yeah, Timothy, thank you. Hey, Veronica, great to see you. Timothy, if you unmute, we'll let you. There
Okay.
you are.
I can speak as a former professor in an academy that there's far too little work done like you are doing, of actually looking at evaluating uh, and measuring in certain ways, and then having the control groups and the study groups, and it's really terrific. We could use a lot more of this rather than the what I consider the stale old, well, we've always done it this way sort of thing. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
Deborah.
also, yeah. Um, Patrick, I met you years ago in, I can't remember where, maybe it was in Pittsburgh. But anyway, it was earlier than that, actually. I'm very interested in what you're doing. I have grandsons in a tiny town in Ohio, and a couple of them are adopted children who are having speech and various difficulties, and including getting suspended from school quite frequently. And so I have been trying to work with my son to see what's going on, what kind of help they get. And there's very little help there, actually. So I'm very interested in what you're doing and would be very curious to know more, and also how, if there's a way we can help support you in what you're doing, to let me know.
Yeah, I mean, so oftentimes I'm not surprised to hear that, and I don't mean that in a negative way, that
Right.
that your grandchildren are experiencing behavioral issues as well. Because if you can't communicate, especially with think about kids, if they can't communicate their feelings, they get frustrated, and that frustration can manifest itself um, in behavioral outbursts or those kinds of things. It's very common. And I mean, that's one of the other aspects of Eurythmics that I think really um, helps with that is, we all know, having been in Eurythmics classes and sessions, I've always seen them as um, as social skills events, the way we interact with each other. And when you see kids do it, if you've taught kids Eurythmics or any Eurythmics class, you know what happens naturally. They look at each other, they move with each other, And so I've seen it accomplish both things, you know. And I also know that with behavioral elements, there's also the sort of technical term is like self-regulation. And I've always seen like Eurhythmics, we talk about time, space, and energy, how your body is moving through time, space, using its time, space, and energy. That's, you know, getting a sense of your body and how it works, which is another aspect of how to be, how to behave inside of your space, inside of other people's space. So I think that is another component of Eurhythmics that is again the reason I want Eurhythmics teachers in every school. but but it is hard to get services. And now I was just reading today part of the research study I just read. In 2025, there was over $12 billion cut from American education just in 2025. That means that schools that were already struggling to get services in the door are now struggling even more. So again, the whole idea of looking at music as a school asset, in addition to band, chorus, and orchestra, I think is just that's part of the motivation of why I'm doing this, because I know I know what you're
The challenge. The challenge is in the training, and I know
very
that
much so.
speech therapist and my daughter-in-law is actually a social worker. I just see the movement part not part of what they're being trained in, and I see these children who are delightful children, have great potential, but nobody's quite reaching where they are. And I think their bodies are a huge part of it, and comfort with their bodies. And
Yeah.
so it's a tough one. I I love Suzuki's approach too with teaching in love.
Thank you. The other thoughts? Debashree, as you were
Can I
presenting.
just
Oh,
quickly
oh yeah,
say
please.
hello? And I gotta drive. I just finished teaching and I've been listening, but I gotta drive home so I can eat dinner on time. So I just want to say, great to see you all, and really lovely to hear. I heard Devashree's presentation, and I you just offhandedly sang, the scale and all of these lovely notes in between, and it was so beautiful just to hear like what is so natural to you, and it's just part of this musical system. But yeah, it was. Thank you just for sharing a little bit of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any brilliant thoughts. My brain is fried from teaching, but I'm gonna keep listening to you all on
Very
my drive
good.
home. So.
Thanks, Veronica. If anybody's new, Veronica is our co-founder and co-host of the VDM. She and I were the first hosts on the very first one, and so couldn't do this without her. Yeah, Debashree, I think we're all really excited just to have a colleague from India, first of all. We've not had a lot of exposure in your country, and so it's really wonderful to meet you. Just to have a different body of music and a different culture find its way in. One of the things that I think about Dalcroze, or one of the ways that I word it, is that I think of it as rather genre agnostic. That is, we're not actually tied to any specific repertoire or period of composed music, or any set. Jacques Dalcroze himself traveled quite extensively and was looking for non-Western, or found himself in kind of non-Western spaces, and was thrilled to be learning about different systems. And so to have you share even just the littlest bit of that is also exciting. But then the part where you're describing, oh, we just thought, well, if we just get some movement into the classroom, here are some of the exciting things that happen, and that's obvious for the Dalcrozian. That's what we think too. Every time we get these bodies engaged, if we can just get the body feeling anything, all sorts of things open up. I was just curious if you talked just a little bit more about, though, it sounded like you're feeling some pressure, although not enough to have to stop, in terms of where is the role of movement in the prior practices. I wonder if it's similar in any way to the teaching that I get to do. I work with university students who are classical Western musicians who are basically headed toward, the professional practice. And in many of those instruments and the genres that they play in and the practice at those studios, big body movement is not also it's not part like most cellists are told quit your wiggling, you got to focus on the technique of that bow on that instrument. And if they were thought to be encouraged to be wiggling too much, it maybe would get in the way of their technique. And so when we teach my classes where there is no cello in hand but their big body is moving all the time, we think of that as a period of inspiration, and so they get the feelings in their body, and then they go back to the cello or go back to the professional stage, and they can move as much as the tradition of that instrument allows. So we sort of set off a safe space in the Eurythmics classroom for motion, and then as they move into more traditional spaces, the big body motion is more or less accepted depending on their instrument and the genre that they're playing. Is there anything in common there, or is there a different way that you're needing to teach it?
So, absolutely, I agree with you because what I feel when we were kids and learning this genre of music, we used to sit down on the floor and unless it's semi-classical or a lighter commercial music, we were never exposed to movement. Never. So most of us assume that this is how it is because we include not to move as a part of the sanctity of this genre of music. However, with changing times, I feel that the more we include and can trigger our sensory senses more, it it will impact better. And the way children function is universal, irrespective of wherever they are. Uh, so that's why I feel that it's definitely it is not restricted to any genre. But at the same time, I think because of its different elements and the way it has been practiced or performed, I need to see with observation or maybe research that if at all it is accepted, because there are many parents who say that, oh, it's too casual. Isn't it too casual? Many see it as not so serious because kids are moving, jumping. So is it really the real classical music? Um, However, the task, if I practice, the task will be to normalize and familiarize, build better awareness, because very few practitioners think that movement should be included.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's at a budding stage, but I would like to take it up and understand better and explore every component of our kind of music and implement it through movement.
very good. Other other thoughts? Yeah. Hi, Vic.
Hi, nice to see y'all. Nice to meet y'all. When I was listening to Patrick and Debashree, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do we have in common? What's different? And what I'm noticing that's different is that Debashree teaches young children, Patrick is teaching teenagers mostly, and I'm teaching exclusively almost adults in an online format. And so it's been this, and I teach improvisation to flutists, and it's been this challenge of how do I address all different types of learners? Because one of the things that I'm trying to avoid in my online program is something that I've experienced in other programs that I've paid for, where you pay a bunch of money, you show up, and then you don't learn the material. You don't practice it. You're not held accountable. And so I've realized that some of these improv games, trying to incorporate movement and getting the kids, that's funny I said that, the participants to take action is getting them better results. And so the question that I would be curious to hear from the room is what do you agree with the idea that adults are just big kids, or and that we learn in the same ways, or what is different? What are some of the key similarities and differences you've noticed across age groups?
Nice. Um, I've got lots of opinions, but let's let someone else go. So who else is who wants to take a stab? What do you think? Are the kids and the adults the same? Are you the same as them?
Yeah, I
Rebecca?
mean, I I
Go
get
ahead, Patrick.
I get so I apologize if I wasn't clear, but the kids that are involved in the study range in age from preschool all the way to like I think our oldest student is 12. And then the students I teach in my school for disabled students are middle through high school, and my at-risk students are all high school kids. And all I wanted to say was what I have found the magic of one of the many magic things of Eurythmics. I could take a lesson plan that I designed for a group of autistic learners and bring it to my at-risk high school students, and with very little tweaking and adjusting, I don't really have to change it that much. It gets the same results. So I believe is that we all are kids at heart, and if you roll it out that way, the one of the key words in Eurythmics is joy. I think the joy of learning is an ageless thing, and I think that's what Eurythmics does. Is it brings out that natural joy for everybody, regardless of age.
Yeah, and I think any of us who teach in this practice would have similar statements. We just hosted a weekend workshop at Carnegie Mellon, and so that's mostly for adults who come to participate in the weekend. But one of the things we do is we observe a children's class. These were 6-year-olds, and then we were joking about how many of the things the teacher was Anthony Molinaro was doing with the 6-year-olds that we had just done a version of with me in the hour before, and Anthony and I hadn't even discussed it in advance. And so I think in many ways we are the same. And the one way that I'm been thinking about it the last couple of years is that I think what we're the same in that we're looking for what I'm calling authentic experience, like something that actually is meaningful, something that's personal, something that I know I participated in, as opposed to something I just observed from an arm's length away. And the kind of the magic of getting the body in motion is that it's really hard to be moving and not feel my own moving. It's hard to move around in a disembodied way or in a sterile or foreign way. As soon as I am trained to whatever's happening in the room with swaying or clapping or walking or whatever the thing is, that's actually me performing with what Jacques Dalcroze called our first instrument. And so whereas many other styles of instruction will permit a student to sit in a chair and just observe music from across the room, which doesn't in any way guarantee the authentic participation. And so as soon as movement finds its way in, it I don't know if we can quite argue that it guarantees, but it really improves the odds that the individual participating is actually participating, not pretending to participate or putting on the facade of I'm in the room. So I think Debashree, the kinds of the advantages that you're viewing in your room, we are all very, very in agreement with. We see the same. Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, I would say that I have a student who is above 50 plus. And interestingly, I never introduced movement to him. But one day he's saying that, oh, I cannot sing this note without tilting my head. Why is it happening? I said, this is, and I feel that movement makes us feel more free, more ourselves. The more we restrict our bodies, the lesser I feel, the lesser we feel the emotions and the openness of music. And that's why I also agree that music and movement, the way learners express or perceive it, is all the same across age groups. Just that kids have lesser inhibition than adults, And that's the only difference I feel.
Very good. Timothy, I saw your hand was up. Timothy, you're still muted. Let's try again.
I do think that I strongly agree with what you're saying, both of the presenters tonight, that the the adult is the outcome of the child, and if the what I've experienced in my teaching with 20-year-olds is that a lot of times, if they are having trouble moving, it's because they have skipped some steps in the way that the body is trained and to move, and they get very frustrated and confused when suddenly their body wants to do something, but they are not prepared to do.
Oh, we might have locked up there for a second. The Well, we're waiting for Timothy's thread to come back. Patrick, can I ask you, can you talk just for 2 minutes about the correlation between speech therapy and Dalcroze lessons? Like, can you give any examples of like anything specific that is like, I do this and it seems to result in that, or these are the kinds of games we're playing that add?
Yeah. So with the students who have like a limited sound vocabulary, where we were trying to get them to, the speech therapists were trying to get them to make consonant sound. Um, One of the things I noticed was that when they began, just to get them to say something like ah um, or oh, and Debashree, you'll appreciate this. Once I put like an elongated hand motion in ah and put a pitch to it. I also did a lot of work with the solfege hand symbols, which seemed to help them a lot. But once we added then like a consonant in front of a vowel sound, like a ba or a da, um, standing up and bouncing while saying a consonant attached to a vowel and moving their body to a rhythmic piano chord progression, that produced almost an immediate result with a lot of the kids. And the shocking thing to me was it seemed almost natural for the kids to immediately respond to it. Um, and the speech therapists, and it's not a commentary on them, they were just like, I'd never thought to do something like that. Um, and again, I think that speaks to what we were all saying about movement. Um, there's a difference in a speech therapy session where a child is sitting at a table as opposed to standing up and moving their body to music. I think that just communicates to them, or helps communicate. And we all know gesture can match a sound, uh, can match an elongated vowel sound. My older students, I have them doing bigger hand gestures and motions, whereas speech therapists had never thought to do something like that. But combining those big and little movements, one of our students was a little girl named Sydney. Um, I drew a giant dot on a piece of paper, and just having her poke it while she said the ba sound, she got it, you know? Um, so I think it's definitely the combination of the music, the movement with the sound and the idea.
If I can contribute a bit to
Please.
what Patrick said, I absolutely agree. And if we connect it with music and music therapy, what happens that suppose a kid is not able to pronounce the letter R or even letter D, so we'll add something in the end of a rhythmic song, very easy song. I jump and say la la, I jump and say da da, and we'll move and we will use those syllables. Eventually, what happens that they usually pick it up. There's no guarantee, but they may. pick it up. What happens that in our brain, there are different sections in the brain. The more we trigger uh, multiple sections while we are singing, it brings better outcomes than just triggering one section of the brain.
Yep. And it's the same thing happening in if the point is traditional music instruction. It's the same thing. Like we
Yeah.
are learning something more about music because we're involving more of us rather than only, wiggling my finger on the tip of my flute. When there's some more holistic learning going on, it is contributing to all of it, whether it's occupational therapy or it's musicianship or whatever the things are that we're doing. We've got time probably for one more. Anybody else have another thought or comment before we're almost? Yes, Selma. So happy to see you. You'll have to unmute.
I was really lucky in my varied dance background to have a chance to learn Manipuri dance with a teacher from India who taught us through rhythmic bowls, and we actually learned the movement with movement very associated with the tonality of the rhythmic patterns that she was teaching us and which we were integrating. And it was such a different experience from all the other ways of dance that I had experienced up to that time. But later, I worked with a number of different students of different backgrounds of classical Indian dance and different experiences of training. And they had done some really amazing work, actually thinking about the relationships between masters and students and all of these kinds of things. So I learned that there are a lot of variations, but part of the joy of that exposure that I had had was that we were actually at the end of the school year, I was about 24 or 5, I think, at that time. We had a little program of what we'd studied. And so some singers and live musicians came and played with us, or played for us, or with us. And we had this amazing kind of meeting of the movement background that we had worked hard to gain over a whole year with musicians who were coming to it from their direction, reaching toward us really to help us. And this was like a life-changing experience for me, actually, to be in a very different way of learning. The teacher was really teaching us to do a lot of things that were quite different from what we had done in a lot of other dance activities. So I'm just reminded of that. When you sang in your little initial talking about it, you reminded me of these sort of little sort of sliding, it wasn't sort of strict step by step scale type work. There were these little elisions and changes happening, and that was one of the things about learning to dance in that form that was so revealing. Not a position we were going for, but a sort of area of enactment or enlivenment around a pitch, say. Anyway, I really enjoyed your comments.
Thank you, Selma. We are at time, and so we try really hard to start on time and end on time. Thank you so much to Patrick and Debashree for sharing. It's always just fascinating to hear how people are working in their area and what their students are bringing them to. Thank you to everybody else who showed up and contributed. We hope that we'll see everybody back for Michael Schnack's masterclass on the 8th. Or maybe the 9th, depending on where you are, and then for Fabion's short course shortly after that. Everyone, have a lovely March, and we will see you back at the BDM soon. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.